Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for this lesson on high-performance work systems in action. Now if you're not familiar with what a high-performance work system is, I'd encourage you to go watch my video on elements of a high-performance work system before taking part in this lesson. As we start here, I want you to imagine a situation where you are the manager of a lumber yard, which we're going to call a store throughout this lesson. And as the manager of the lumber yard, one of your most important pieces of equipment that you have is your forklift. Your people use a forklift for a lot of the jobs that they do in your facility. Okay? Now, one of the problems you've been having lately is that you've been getting a lot of flat tires on your forklifts. Employees are driving them out in the yard, they're catching nails, they're catching screws, the tires go flat, and then the machines are out of commission and people can't use them to do their job. Now, one of the things that you would like to do is you'd like to purchase solid rubber tires for your forklifts, because if you had solid rubber tires, they wouldn't go flat when they hit a nail or a screw. Unfortunately, the procurement manager who works in your corporate office says solid tires are too expensive and won't support your decision to purchase them. Could a high-performance work system help you out here? Now, as we move forward, let's start to think about what the procurement manager's decision currently looks like. The procurement manager is weighing out the difference between purchasing solid tires against the cost of air-filled tires plus repairs. And as of right now, the procurement manager has determined that the cost of air-filled tires plus the occasional repair for a flat is still less than solid tires and doesn't think that solid tires are a good investment. But for you, having the wrong equipment is resulting in a lot of waste. Okay, so you're wasting resources and not quite getting the productivity out of them that you could, because every time your machine goes down, you have problems on the job. All right, so the results of this flat tire are, we've done task design. We figured out how is the work going to get done, and we determined that that work needs to get done with the use of a forklift. But unfortunately, every time the forklift gets a flat tire, what happens is your employees have to use a cart or they have to work manually. Now, this work is a lot more difficult, it takes longer, and it results in lost sales, because instead of spending time trying to sell product and engaging with customers, your people are spending more time doing the work that they could have done with a forklift if the machine was operating properly. So how does the equipment failure impact the organization? Another one of the problems we have is look at the people who we've hired. After we determined what the work was that needed to be done, we hired people who could do that work. But without the right equipment, we might have the wrong people. So how can a high-performance system help us in this situation? The first thing we're going to look at here is the role of information systems, information technology. These can help us with sharing of data. So right now, our procurement manager is only looking at data as it pertains to the cost of the forklift and the equipment that that person is responsible for purchasing. If we could share HR data with the procurement manager, they might be able to see the relationship between employee accidents resulting from doing more difficult work when the forklifts are down and flat tires. They also might be able to see the relationship between workers' comp claims, which would result from accidents, and flat tires as well. This could give them a different perspective on the cost. Building on that even more, because the work is more labor intensive when the forklifts aren't operating properly, we have scheduled deviations, we have overtime that we have to pay, and we have increased payroll. If we can share data using our information systems, perhaps our procurement manager could see that relationship and incorporate these into the cost of a flat tire as well. And then finally, we could look at employee attitudes, because if we hired somebody to do a job with machinery and then we don't provide that machinery for them, their attitudes are probably going to be impacted by that. So we could look at the relationship between attitudes and flat tires. Now, as we share all this data, the procurement manager's decision changes, because right now, as we presented this, their decision was based upon evaluating the cost of solid tires against that of air-filled tires plus repairs. But once we share all this HR data with them, they're now looking at the cost of solid tires compared to air-filled tires plus repairs plus labor costs plus cost of lost sales and all the other costs that are associated with the HR data that we mentioned before. Now, information systems alone might not solve the problem, because as we look at our organizational structure here, one of the things that you might see is that the general manager and the procurement manager might be in completely different sections in the organizational structure. And if that's the case, they might have different bosses and different motivations as to what they need to accomplish. Building on that, we want to think about how do we motivate the procurement manager. Now, currently, it seems like the reward system is rewarding the procurement manager simply for lowering the cost of procurement. And if that doesn't change, even if we provide the procurement manager with all the HR data in the world, their decision about the tires is probably not going to change either. So if we want the procurement manager to make a decision that is going to help the store reduce overall costs, we've also got got to reward them for reducing the operational cost for the store. But if we can't get the right equipment, we have to think about our task design and the people who are going to do the work. And we may have to go back to the beginning and start changing what the task design looks like, and changing who we hire moving forward. We also might have to change what their reward system looks like, because if we're impeding people's sales and changing the way that they can perform, but then rewarding them based upon the presence of equipment that we don't have operating for them, that's going to be a little bit problematic. So if we move forward, if we had a high performance work system in place, all these different components would be supporting store operational efficiency. Our information systems through data sharing would be supporting efficiency, because our procurement manager could see different things than what they're currently looking at. If we had a structure that was designed so the procurement manager and the general manager were aligned, that would also influence the store operational efficiency. If the procurement manager's rewards were aligned with the store's performance, that would support the operational efficiency. We could have proper task design, have the right people in the store, and also appropriate rewards for people in the store. And this is just one example of how, if we had a high performance work system in place in an organization, it could improve our efficiency.